Following these weeks after Easter, we hear each Sunday many of the resurrection accounts of Jesus. And these are powerful stories that remind us how we continue to encounter the Lord in our lives. And on the second Sunday of Easter, Divine Mercy Sunday, we hear an important story from the 20th chapter of St. John's Gospel. How on that first Easter night, as the apostles were gathered behind locked doors, Jesus appeared to them. And he comes through the locked doors, he comes with his gift of peace, but he also brings two other very important gifts. The first is he gives them the sacrament of reconciliation. This gospel tells us Jesus breathes on the disciples and says, "Receive the Holy Spirit. Whose sins you forgive are forgiven, whose sins you hold bound are held bound." And the church has always seen this as Christ instituting that sacrament through which we continue to receive his forgiveness through his apostles and through his church. The second gift that Jesus gives in the gospel is he helps doubting Thomas come to faith. The gospel tells us Thomas is not there on that first Easter night. And when the apostles share with him the glorious news that Jesus is risen, he doubts. Thomas wants to touch Jesus physically. He says, "Unless I put my finger in the wounds in his hands and in his side, I will not believe." And though history has not always been kind to poor doubting Thomas, we can relate a lot to him. Because like him, we yearn to touch the wounds of Christ, because we recognize that it is in them we find that unending font of mercy that we need in our lives. But the mistake Thomas makes is that he forgets that he can encounter Christ in his church, in the sacrament, in the followers, in the presence of Christ, in his disciples. And my friends, that's the lesson I think this gospel has for us. Because we all know we're not going to touch Jesus physically as St. Thomas did. But we can touch his wounds when we receive the sacrament of reconciliation. We can touch the risen Christ when we encounter him present in his church, present in the hearts of believers. Like St. Thomas, let us run to that font of mercy so that, like him, we too can fall on our knees and make that great proclamation of faith, "My Lord and my God." Just a little midweek reminder to remind us what it's all about.